All right, welcome to your first real training session. Think of this as your first big security puzzle. My job is to give you the defender's playbook, and that starts with learning how to think like an attacker. So let's jump right in. First question, and it's the one we always have to ask. Are your digital doors unlocked? Look, every single system, every network, it's like a house with hundreds, maybe thousands of doors and windows. Our job, our entire mission, is to find the ones that have been left unlocked before somebody else does. So, what exactly are we looking for? We're looking for vulnerabilities. And in the simplest terms, a vulnerability is just a weakness, a flaw. It is that unlocked door in your house that lets an attacker stroll right in. Everything we do in this field starts with truly understanding that simple idea. Okay, let's get our investigation started. Section 1 is all about finding those unlocked doors. Before we can even think about securing the house, we have to know where all the weak points are, right? So where do these weak points even come from? It's rarely some super complex genius-level hack. Most vulnerabilities, and I mean most of them, come from simple human mistakes. A bad decision in the initial design, a tiny bug in the code, forgetting to patch some outdated software, or just a simple configuration error. Believe me, that's almost always where attackers start. Let's start with our first puzzle, the default password. This is probably one of the most common and, frankly, easiest doors for an attacker to walk through. It's like the manufacturer left a key under the doormat, and the new owner just never bothered to move it. You think that's a small deal? The massive Mirai botnet attack back in 2016, that was built by compromising thousands of devices using just 61 common default passwords. That's the power of this one simple mistake. And it really is this simple. An attacker finds a web admin panel online. They try the most obvious, lazy credentials imaginable, like admin and password, and boom, just like that, they get access. It is the literal digital equivalent of trying the doorknob and finding it unlocked. All right, on to puzzle number 2. This one sounds a little more technical, but it's actually pretty easy to understand with a simple analogy. I like to call this one the overflowing cup. It's all about pushing a system way past its limits. So here's how a buffer overflow works. Imagine a program has a tiny box, let's say an input field, and it's only designed to hold, say, 10 characters of text. Well, an attacker knows this, and they send a massive flood of data, maybe 100 characters or more. All that extra data has to go somewhere, doesn't it? It spills out of its little box and into other parts of the system's memory. And if the attacker is clever, that spilled over data actually contains malicious code that the system might just accidentally run. Our third puzzle is all about secrecy, or really the lack of it. We'll call this one the open postcard. This is what happens when systems are misconfigured and they end up sending really sensitive information right out in the open for anyone to see. Seriously, sending unencrypted data across a network is exactly like mailing a postcard. The mailman? Your nosy neighbor? Anyone who gets their hands on it can read your entire message. Encryption, though, that's like putting your message inside a locked steel box. Only the person who has the specific, unique key can open it and see what's inside. And it gets even sneakier. There's this attack called cross-site request forgery. We call it CSRF for short, where attackers don't even need your password. What they do is trick your browser. So imagine this, you're logged into your bank account, you get an email with a link, you click it, and that link secretly tells your already logged in browser to do something, like transfer money, without you having any idea it's happening. Now here's where things get really interesting in the modern era. Attackers are using AI to scan for these weak points on a massive scale. They're even using it to automatically create the tools to exploit them. The game is changing, and it makes our job as defenders more critical than it has ever been. Okay, so we found a few unlocked doors. But here's the reality. You can't fix everything all at once. It's just not possible. So the next critical question is, which of these doors leads to the family jewels, and which one just leads to a broom closet? We have to figure out the real risk. To do that professionally, we use something called the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, or CVSS. Now, forget the numbers for just a second. Just look at the business impact. A low score? It's probably a minor disruption. A medium score? Okay, some services might fail. High? We're talking serious data loss or downtime. But critical? A 9 or a 10? That means an attacker can walk in the door and take the entire kingdom. This is how we prioritize. When you see a score like this, a 9.8, critical, everything else stops. This is the all-hands-on-deck moment. This is the house on fire. This is the wide open front door with a neon sign pointing to the safe. This becomes your #1 priority, period. Now, Let's talk about the most dangerous puzzle out there. What happens if there's an unlocked door that nobody knows about, not even the people who built the house? This, my friend, is a zero-day vulnerability, and it's the ultimate challenge for us as defenders.
And this timeline really shows you why 0 days are so terrifying. The flaw could have been sitting there in the code for months. On day 0, an attacker finds it and immediately starts using it. The good guys, the software vendor, might not find out about it for weeks, and by the time they release a patch to fix it, the damage has already been done. The attackers had a massive head start.
Feeling a little overwhelmed? Don't be. Finding the doors is just step 1. Now we get to the good part, the solution. Section 3, your defensive moves. This is where you, the defender, start locking things down. Here is your playbook. It's a cycle, and it never stops. First, you identify your assets. You can't protect what you don't know you have. Second, you assess for weaknesses. You actively look for that outdated software. Third, you remediate and patch. That's just a fancy way of saying you fix the problem, starting with the biggest risks first. And finally, you monitor, because new doors are always appearing and the puzzle truly never ends. All right, enough theory. Let's get our hands dirty. It is time for a practical, hands-on lab that you can do on your own computer right now. This is where we go from just learning to actually doing. Go ahead, you can pause this if you want. Open up your computer settings and find the list of your installed applications. Find your web browser or any program you use a lot and look for its version number. Then just pop open a search engine and look it up. Are you running the latest, most secure version? If not, congratulations, you've just found your first potential vulnerability. You found an unlocked door. That's a great first step. Awesome job today. You now have the basic framework for how to find unlocked doors, how to figure out how risky they are, and what to do about them. But what about all the valuable stuff inside the house? Securing the perimeter is only half the battle. And that brings us to our final question for today. You've locked the doors, but how do you protect the secrets that are moving from room to room inside? The data in motion. Well, that is a topic for our next explainer, where we'll dive into cryptography. I'll see you then.